Both of these teams managed to 3-0 their opponents to start off their tournament. They haven't dropped a series out of the only series that they have played, but just such fantastic performances. That's about to change. One of them is about to lose. One of them is about to drop down to the lower side of the bracket. It's another NA versus EU matchup. And to break it all down, we got Zico. And to cast all the action, we have Super Tease and Healing Stat. Guys, this is probably one of the tougher ones to call. When you start off with the seeding that's based off of where everybody did end up with standings, we know that some of the matchups, it's going to be a little bit more one-sided. Here, it gets much more difficult to predict. What do you expect Zico to actually see as far as compositions are concerned?
This is really tough to call in general. I mean, right now, in my opinion, Wildcard Gaming is the best team in Europe. They don't have the most amount of points, but they won the last 3 cups heading into this tournament. Cloud9, I mean, we saw them earlier in the day. We know that they are the best team in North America. This could easily be the grand final. It's really tough to know. These guys have a lot of compositions, but if I have to start off with Cloud9, I would say Mage, Warlock, Druid definitely sounds likely coming out of these guys. Rogue, Mage, Druid, also a composition that they run a lot. And on the side of Wildcard Gaming, I'm really not sure what to expect. They have a lot of different things they could run. Maybe we'll see the Moonkin Elemental or the Windwalker DK.
We've seen a decent amount of Moonkin Elemental thus far in the tournament. We also got a beautiful Moonkin here on the desk. Super Tease, how do you feel about Moonkin potentially being used in the blind?
I think it's a solid pick, especially because Destruction Warlock and Frost Mage, they're very stationary spellcasters, and they have to spend a lot of time with their opponents in open field, whereas the Balanced Druid and Elemental Shaman are very springy, and they can just move around with instant cast damage and basically walk circles around the Warlock and the Mage. So strategically, it would make sense for them to lock in the Balanced Druid Elemental Shaman if they are anticipating a Mage Warlock. So then if you're Cloud9, you're thinking, well, they might be anticipating our Mage Warlock because they know how good we are at it. Maybe we should play something that counters the Elemental Shaman Balanced Druid as an anticipated mind game, and these are the types of mind games that go through both of the teams' heads for game number 1, and it's so important with teams of this caliber because they bring so many compositions to the table to try and counter each other in terms of play. So a lot rides on this first pick, and anything could really happen.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, you go a step further, if BlizzCon was tomorrow, right? And this tournament helped decide who went to BlizzCon, and both of them managed to qualify in this Magic Dream scenario. That's not real at all because we know BlizzCon's not tomorrow. These are 2 of the teams that you would expect to potentially win BlizzCon. I think the only other team that you very, very confidently put into that conversation, and Adrian, feel free to disagree with me, I think would probably be Method Black. I think you would either say 2 of these names or Method Black. So this matchup's pretty insane.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I think Method Black would be the third in that kind of category of this top 3 teams. I mean, all of us, did kind of predictions for the tournament on our streams, and I think all 3 of us had, Cloud9, Wildcard Gaming, and Method Black at the top. There's a couple of teams that are kind of breaking the mold a bit, like the boys that could break into there, and it will be curious to see. Tomorrow's going to be an absolutely fantastic day, but this is the series that, as Zico said, easily could be a grand final, and it's just a treat that we get to watch it now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on my stream I predicted like Colo is going to win or something. I don't know. I guess I'm wrong.
Well, here's another prediction for you. I think whoever wins this series wins the tournament.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
I would agree with you. I actually would agree with you, and I think this is the closest poll that we've had of the day as well. I'm surprised it's not even closer, right? 60 to 40, Cloud9 going to be coming out on top, and we know, let's say one of these teams does manage to win the entire tournament. It is huge for that entire region. You also start thinking, as one of the other teams in the region, one of the other top teams, it's like, I can take a deep breath, right? Even if they don't win, because all of a sudden you move some of your toughest competition out of the running as far as points qualification goes, because they already got the spot, but the gates are now open. Let's see who can draw first blood.
Both these teams with stellar performances to make it this far in the upper bracket and to go head-to-head. This could easily be a grand final. You certainly don't want to go anywhere. Who is going to take it, really? I mean, in the lower bracket, North America is getting owned, but in the upper bracket, they still have a chance.
Yeah, this is actually a very similar matchup to what we saw in Cloud9's first series against AWC. I think they were running the Mage Elemental, so slightly different, but the strategy for Cloud9 will be the same. They lose the late game against Moonkin Elemental. If we get to 40, 50, 60% dampening, that's where Wildcard will win this matchup. Hence, Cloud9 will be the aggressor. They're going to be pushing in, trying to get damage over onto Looney potentially. He could be someone to watch for. You can see already Cubsy getting aggressive with that Feral Affinity. That's what Cloud9 need. They need the crowd control, they need the damage. The Infernal's coming out. They're already setting a precedent for what will happen this game.
Cubsy is spending more time in cat form than anything else so far this game, really dishing out a lot of extra damage, and we can see that all that damage is paying off as Maro dips very low on health. Bounces back with a quick heal. That renewal popped. Pinned at the pillar, though, and Cubsy's still in cat form, tearing in. He's really bringing the aggression for his team, and his composition normally doesn't have a lot of lockdown, but with the Feral Affinity, he can bring extra stuns, and it's definitely important. However, it exposes him defensively as he loses the Guardian Affinity, which provides him a lot of damage reduction and Frenzied Regeneration to recover. So Wildcard Gaming, realizing that weakness, switched to him, immediately punishing that Feral Affinity decision. However, Cubsy is able to recover.
Yeah, I like the fact that both these druids are running trinkets. Like you say, Sid, it's smart for Cubsy because he can afford to be aggressive knowing he has that line of defense of if he gets too aggressive, he can just trinket out, try and keep himself alive. Looney as well, he probably saw what happened to poor old Askaraf in the first series of the day against Cloud9. Definitely going to be running that trinket, not wanting to get one-shot by the Infernal setups. So I like how both these teams have set themselves up for the series. Actually, one of the things I'm noting is that Looney has had to expend a lot of mana in this early game. He's starting to regen some up now. The Infernal and all those big offensive cooldowns are down for Cloud9. He's just kind of trying to heal as little as possible because he knows the win condition for him is dampening. And I mean, what better team than Wildcard Gaming for that win condition, Sid?
Big hits on Wealthy Man. He is able to escape to safety, but dipped fairly low, and later on in the fight we've seen Zeepai just erase players, so playing a dangerous game going that low on health without ice blocking, but able to take the gamble and hold on to a vital defensive cooldown. We see Cubsy once again moving in cat form, and I'm curious if Looney is running the same, but now Cubsy has walked into crowd control. Both Chanimal and Maro under fire. Iron Bar currently activated for Looney, so likely Maro recovers. Chanimal doesn't have that same cooldown. Cubsy is now stunned. Wealthy Man gets cross crowd controlled. Good crowd control initiation here by Wildcard Gaming. Big hits, but still no ice block. Wealthy Man holding on to that. Another risky gamble by Cloud9.
Yeah, these EU Elemental Shamans are devastating. Every single time they go for that lasso, they build up the Earthshock afterward. If that crits, it can hit for up to 100,000, you know, like about half the health pool. So you've got to be really careful sitting through some of those lassos. If the damage is there, you know, a Mali hits, maybe a little bit of damage, a Star Surge from Maro perhaps, can be absolutely devastating. And Wealthy Man is feeling it. He's having to back out, actually. They're pushing in. They have crowd control over on Cubsy. Might even be able to force the first ice block here. Wildcard Gaming, traditionally that melee cleave, they've played majority of their games this season as the DK Windwalker, but they are showing up on the Elemental and the Moonkin Druid. Mara and Zeepai, the synergy is insane. You can see why they've won the last 3 European Cups.
Most certainly, Maro has definitely polished his balanced Druid. It's ready to go here in the tournament, the Spring Finals. A spot to BlizzCon on the line in this tournament. $50,000 first place finish on the line for this tournament. And even though Wildcard Gaming are not the #1 seeded team from Europe, they're definitely a top contender to be one of the best teams in Europe. Cloud9, on the other hand, are the top point earners for North America and were widely respected by basically every single player at the tournament. And if a North American team was going to do it, everyone's starting to think it's going to be Cloud9. You can really see why. Cubsy able to dance between both offense and defense immaculately, adding a lot of extra stuns for his team, which they are able to bounce back with huge burst. Icy Veins Infernal available for Cloud9. These are powerhouse cooldowns, and they are waiting to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I mean, this game goes far beyond just Cloud9 and Wildcard Gaming. The way that the BlizzCon spots go this year, right? Like one from points for each region, but the 3 LAN spots could go, you know, we could have 4 European teams or 4 North American teams going to BlizzCon. If you're, you know, whatever's left of Method Orange fan, or if you're a Never Lucky fan, then Cloud9 winning is one of your biggest, you know, hopes at this point. Meanwhile, Wildcard Gaming, of course, the same banner, but for Europe. AWC, Changed My Mind, all these teams, you know, sitting in that lower bracket waiting for tomorrow, watching this with anticipation. Chanimal gets caught up in the Lightning Lasso. Good blink counter spell coming in from Wealthy Man. It's actually really intense, this game, considering considering that the double casters traditionally go to deeper dampening, but Cloud9 are making it that way. They have to play aggressively because the later the game goes, I really feel the more Wildcard are going to be advantaged.
Cubsy once again moving forward with his team, that Feral Affinity adding in some extra edge with that extra damage, really just chasing Looney down. I have not seen Cubsy play this aggressively and with this much confidence before. He looks unshaken on the stage here for the Spring Finals in 2019, and if he can keep adding this extra damage, look at Looney's mana, it's devastated, dampening at 7%, although now Chanimal getting blasted by Morrow. Unending Resolve has to be exchanged. He's still at very low health, it may not be enough, but now Morrow is exposed, interrupted on a Cyclone. Iron Bark is faded. Bark skin available in 1 second off the back of that lockout. Morrow stabilizes. Solar Beam committed to interrupt Chaos Bolt. Cubsy now sees an opportunity to move in. He's getting huge bleeds and damage over time effects on the entire team, maximizing it really. I'd love to see a damage breakdown for Cubsy. He's playing phenomenally right now with that Feral Affinity.
Yeah, he's playing fantastically. It's one of those things where, Gurecki is the big streamer from North America. He made Feral Affinity famous, and I think a lot of Druids have followed suit, but Cubsy's also been using this build for a very long time. It's just a very North American strategy. I really like it. A lot of the European Druids have been picking up on it as well. We see the Trinket actually forced on Cubsy there from that Lightning Lasso. Maybe a little bit scared for Chanimals. Maybe that wasn't needed, but the wall's also down now as 12% dampening starts to ramp up. Wildcard Gaming are forcing cooldowns. That was the incarnation, yes, from Morrow, so maybe with that down, it's going to be hard for them to generate pressure, but they're really forcing Cloud9 back. Looney's mana isn't great. They're going to have to try set up a drink for him. That could be one of the win conditions for Cloud9 here, but it's looking really difficult for Cubsy to just top his team off right now.
I mean, that's because he's juggling, dealing damage, and healing the team throughout Wildcard's pressure. Bash,
this could be
it. This could be the end of the match if there's any crowd control. A Cyclone. How is Chanimal going to hold out? He's managed to avoid the damage by line of sighting out the pillar. Shadow Fury trying to break up the crowd control, gets stunned and denied, but it's not necessary. Crowd control has now faded. Cubsy stabilizes. Cyclone Chanimal denying the Innervate heals. Well done here. Does slow down the mana a bit, but Looney's already so far behind that that's not going to be enough in itself. Looney needs to try and find an opportunity to drink and regenerate mana. If he is unable to do so, I don't think it's looking too good for his team. This Feral Affinity could add enough damage that they can find a kill, even though these Wizards are more mobile. Cloud9's extra damage from Cubsy is starting to try and sort of tilt this game in their favor. We do see finally some counter pressure here with Chanimal and Weltyman getting bursted. Cubsy still interrupted around the corner. Ducking for cover, gets back into the fight. Trying to stabilize and hold on to the Iron Part, but this Stormkeeper of Zeepai, as soon as he's out of that polymorph, could be devastating.
Yeah, I mean, the mana bar from Looney is like a little bit deceptive, I think, because he hasn't had the opportunity to drink, whereas Cubsy has. And I also just think Cloud9 is the team that needs to be aggressive in this matchup to some extent. Looney will have the double Innervate in deep dampening. Morrow and Looney, of course, both able to provide that to him. And I think he's just done a good job of being efficient. He won't drink during the game because the Warlock will always stop him. Chanimal's always going to be on top of that. And I mean, now, once again, it's the Infernals coming out of Chanimal's, this big cooldown, and he just one-shots Morrow. I didn't expect that for a second there. He still had defensive cooldowns, 2 Trinkets, Iron Bark, Renewal. The one-shot from Chanimal's, you cannot disrespect those Infernals.
Wow, that's definitely not how I expected that one to end. Luckily, we got Zico to break the entire thing down. I do want to say, though, you know your rosters are pretty stacked when you got Snuts and Blizzo on the bench. That's when you know your team's pretty darn good, but why does the game end up just ending right there?
Well, it just comes down to a big mistake there at the end. They didn't really respect the damage. Chanimal, again, he keeps finding these opportunities, and, every single time he will take them, he will bite, and this is another case like that. Match definitely had a lot of length left in it because they still had, like you said, the Renewal, the Iron Bark. They had a lot of different cooldowns still to work with on the side of Wildcard, but they didn't expect it, and a lot of it comes down to the pressure as well. When Looney is the one pressured in terms of mana, then it kind of forces the team to play in a certain way where more mistakes are likely to happen. Morrow, he's dropping fairly low. He still has all of his cooldowns to work with. The Infernals are going to be dropped right very, very soon. Looney, of course, getting caught up. There it is. The Infernals come out as well. And Maro here, he's trying to go offensive. He gets spell locked on the Cyclone. Not going to be able to do too much about that. Gets caught up in the Shadow Fury. And then, of course, Chanimal gets the double Mortal Coil. Manages to sneak in. He didn't even get a Chaos Bolt there, actually. It was just incredible. Just Wealthy Man with the Icy Veins managing to close it out.
Yeah, you know, you're sitting there, you're watching the replay, you're getting really excited for like a 360 no-scope, big and beefy bolt, and it just didn't even happen. They didn't even need to serve that up in the first place, Adrian.
I mean, it's just like all the offensive cooldowns regardless, right? Like the Infernal passively does a lot. It was an Orb with Icy Veins, and it was the Dark Soul from Channimals. It was a really good setup. Maro had 2 seconds left on his Trinket, I think, when he got Death Coiled there. It was just amazing. You know, you got the Shadow Fury into the Death Coil, clean setup from Channimals. No renewal could come out, and I mean, actually looking at that replay, it's like Zico said, potentially there could have been more left in that game, but I actually don't fault Wildcard too much because it wasn't an obvious answer. Maybe Looney trinketing some like 2-second Shadow Fury for an Ironbark, but that was it was just, honestly, it was a clean execution from Cloud9.
It definitely was, and let's actually jump down to the floor and try to hear what the players are actually thinking after that one.
Hey guys, before this matchup, I sat down with Zeepai, and as we just saw, he told me to get ready to enjoy some dampening. So, you know, for them, it really did seem like business as usual. They were preparing for every comp that they thought that Cloud9 was going to throw at them. Also on the side of Cloud9, they seemed a bit uneasy. You know, they weren't really sure that Wildcard Gaming was putting their best foot forward in practice. They weren't sure that they were bringing out their best comps. So we'll see if these teams can really prove their worth for this next game. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, dampening definitely something that we know you EU lads enjoy quite a bit. You guys love your nice dampening games. Do we expect that this is a series, though, Zico, that is going to revolve around that?
Yes. When we have this many casters in one arena, more often than not, it will go to pretty deep amounts of dampening. And, you know, Looney and Zeepai, they were, you know, born in dampening and molded by it.
Raised in dampening.
they were raised by the dampening. So definitely very comfortable playing in dampening. But honestly, I'm not really sure. I think what it comes down to is the mana efficiency. I think Looney didn't really want to like top off Maru completely because he didn't want to overheal too much, and it just gave them the slightest of opening, you know, like you mentioned with the Orb and the Infernals, that pretty much passive damage in addition to the Icy Veins damage of Wealthy Man. It just kind of surprised them. I could have easily seen Maru come out of that Mortal Coil on, you know, 5% or so, getting his renewal off and continuing the match as usual. And those are the split-second decisions, that little extra greed that these players usually calculate perfectly. This time around, though, just too much damage from C9, and that's going to net them the first win. And Wildcard Gaming, they have a lot of different compositions as well that they can run. I'm interested to see if we're going to see the Windwalker Elemental Shaman come out of these guys, because that's something that we've been hearing a lot about in the War Games.
Yeah, I think that we do need to talk about what the pace of this one starts to look like. Do you think that this is because, you know, you mentioned that you expect a lot of wizards, right? You have a lot of casters. That means a lot of late dampening games. But do you think that there's a high chance here that it becomes one of those games that goes all the way, one of those series that goes all the way to Game 5? We see comps back and forth, counter comps come time and time again? Or do you think it's going to be more straightforward than that?
It's actually really hard to answer that question. I think that Wildcard Gaming expected very much to meet this Mage Lock Druid. It's the composition that Cloud9's had incredible success with, and I think Cloud9 were more than happy to give it to them because they were like, hey, what is your answer to this? Like, everyone says they have answers for Mage Lock Druid, but we haven't been convinced yet that there's an answer for this Mage Lock Druid with Channimals on the Warlock. Method Black maybe, but Channimals on the Warlock is a different matter. Like, Cloud9 are just one step ahead when it comes to this composition, and I think Wildcard Gaming's best bet is this Elemental Moonkin. They've just got to play it even more cleanly than they did. They were getting towards their win condition. Maybe they threw a little bit at the end there. It's very hard. It's those split-second decisions, you know, in one Shadow Fury, a 3-second stun that make or break the game.
It's pretty cool to look at Cloud9 too and be like, yeah, Chan could have some bad seafood tonight and end up being out with food poisoning, and tomorrow this would probably still be their best composition. Just bring in Snuts and it would still probably be the best Mage Lock.
There we go.
Okay, here is definitely an answer. Super Tees, how do you feel about this one?
Well, this composition brings a lot of punch, especially with 2 monks on the side of Wildcard Gaming. They've set themselves up well here on Hook Point, as this is a good map to deny druids from finding drinks, and this was strategically plotted out by Wildcard Gaming. I was actually anticipating maybe a melee cleave when they locked in the Hook Point, but I like this even more.
Why do you like the Hook Point?
Hook Point? I'm speaking to the composition. Hook Point is just obviously to deny Cubsy from drinking. Wildcard Gaming are anticipating that Cubsy is going to be playing exclusively Druid, so picking maps to deny drinks and then trying to win on mana with Looney's Mistweaver seems like a good game plan.
This was one of my concerns, and I'm not sure how true this is holding, but it was an impression I was getting in Wargames, is that Wildcard Gaming may well be basing this comp off of games against Meta Black playing the Mage Lock Druid. But Cloud9 plays it completely differently. Cloud9 really focus on crowd control before their setups, and Double Monk is actually really susceptible to crowd control against the Mage Druid. If they can, if they can crowd control up Blizzo and Looney, and then Chanimals finds the opening, such as he did in Game 1, this could easily backfire. But at the same time, this is Wildcard Gaming. I'm not going to question them. This comp really does pack a lot of punch, like you said, Sid.
Well, you've brought up before, you were telling me a story back in the day about NA and EU playing compositions differently. And you were talking about actually preparing for a tournament, and you were in a position where you were trying to have an EU team be your wargame partner, but you're getting ready to play against an NA team, actually Van Rookie's team, play that composition, and it was very hard to get the right practice. You needed the team to basically change their entire game plan. Is that kind of what we're experiencing here?
Yeah, I mean, it may well be. And I hope that they've made those estimations when it comes to locking in this composition, because if they haven't calculated for the fact that Meta Black will inherently play this composition differently based on practice games, it could be a real problem.
Yeah, it could be a real problem indeed. Let's see who's able to take this one.
All right, let's see who's going to take it. Cloud9 taking the lead early on, and Wildcard Gaming forced onto a different composition, and one that we are going to see for the first time today. So if you are just tuning in, there's still surprises for us, even though we're 6 series into the day and only 2 left. We are in the upper bracket of the spring finals, the Arena World Championship Series.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been saying, this could easily be a grand final. So this may not be the first or the last time these two teams meet, but Cloud9 gets first blood in the upper bracket here. It's been looking fantastic for them the entire spring season, the spring split. Like, I wasn't casting it, but I was watching every single one of these games, and these guys have been incredibly impressive. Chanimal, Wealthy Man, and Cubsy. Like, we talk about Chanimal and Snuts, but Cubsy and Wealthy Man, they've been the back end. They were Cloud9 2015, and they've been really reinforcing these 2 Warlock kind of known players. Blizzo now in the opener, Life Cocoon coming out early from Looney. You see double Relentless coming in from both of these monks. Unsurprising given how much crowd control Cloud9 like to put out.
Right, touch of death activated. Blizzo wants to tear in. He's going after Chanimal. Zeepai's been putting his pressure towards Wealthy Man. They're trying to go after 2 targets and burn down the mana of Cubsy. Innervate activated instantly, realizing that Cubsy is going to have to heal inefficiently to power through this split damage strategy, and that Innervate timing allows him to stay at maximum mana throughout that pressure. And Wildcard Gaming, that seems to be the main win condition. With the map selected and the composition selected, it looks like they want to try and burn Cubsy out on mana, deny him on drinks, and find pressure and burst in between, but defensively focused on their strategies and aiming for dampening likely.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that this composition is really nice from Wildcard Gaming is that the Elemental will always have a pillar to sit on because it's a small map. That's why Hook Point works so well. He can just kind of, sit on the pillars, get those lassos, get those flame shocks. And then Blizzo and Looney are always within Transcendence range. They'll be able to portal out of danger. Both of them, I assume they're both running human. So even though they're relentless, they have the, the break with the ratio to break out of any stun if they really need it. And I mean, it's an intelligent pick from Wildcard Gaming. Whether it will work in the kind of deep dampening, like Cubsy's going to look for a lot of resets. You can see Zeepai getting caught out right now is a big question, because I mean, it's actually hard for them to. I would say it's hard for them to get a good connection over onto Chanimals with Blizzo on the Windwalker, just because of how much crowd control and slows there are coming out. Even the Warlock can be slippery at that point.
Cubsy knows that mana is going to be the name of the game. He's sneaking away immediately, but denied. Wealthy Man gets bursted in the midst of all that, and Cubsy doesn't get to regenerate any mana. Wildcard Gaming start to establish a lead, and you can tell that they came prepared for this tournament and this series in particular, realizing the threat of Cloud9's Mage, Warlock, Restoration Druid, and perhaps these small small map selected, double monk composition mana strategies could be enough, but they need to make sure that they're staying on top of Cubsy. Why is nobody stopping Cubsy? He just got full mana, and that's a bit of a botched move by Wildcard Gaming.
I actually don't think the mana pool from Cubsy is
You don't think so?
Yeah, because the thing is the Druid in Dampening burns through the mana so quickly healing a Warlock that I think until Dampening, you don't overextend. Looney's mana will always be fantastic in this matchup as long as his team doesn't take too much damage. So I think until Dampening starts, this is kind of like how we saw Never Lucky playing on Colo's side. You know, these double monk teams, they love the pillar. They love to just sit back, avoid damage until that win condition later in the game.
Touch of Death available for Blizzo. He may just get an Ice Block without it. Huge damage.
He's locked on Frost! What? He's actually locked on Frost. He snaps, but he does not get the Ice Block off. And actually, we're like settling down, waiting for some
I'm getting ready for dampening Zipai. You can't tell me that, man. Like,
and just twice in a row now.
Yeah, Zipai literally said, get ready for the deepest, dampest cave imaginable. This one's going to be one to buckle up for. You can hear Sid reserving his energy, waiting for the perfect moment.
Like
the first game, you don't expect it to end there. The second one, you don't expect it to end there. I would not want to have to be an analyst. Thankfully, we got Zico. What's going on here? Why do we see such a dramatic finish to that one?
Well, it's like Healing Stats said. You have Looney, you have Zipai. They're playing back. They're dipping in and out, using their instant damage abilities. You know, Blizzo as well. He has his Transcendence whenever he needs to. He's always going to be able to port back, just try to conserve Looney's mana and then go for a late game push. And then here, Wealthy Man overextends a little bit. Nice Lightning Lasso combo. And then, of course, Blizzo. He has a little bit of damage to back it up. And since no real cooldowns are actually committed here, like the Touch of Death, and Wealthy Man has the Iron Bark, he thinks that he's safe. Zipai with a quick wind shear as well. He's going to lock him on Frost. And now, as a mage, you have a very difficult choice. Do I Cold Snap and block, which means that I have no more ice blocks, or do I sit out the lockout, rely on the Iron Bark, and try to survive? Wealthy Man kind of was a little bit indecisive there for a split second, and that's all it takes. Zipai, beautiful Earth Shock, bam.
I just want to say, if there is one comp I would never want to play my mage into, it's got to be Elemental Windwalker. That looks absolutely horrible for the mage.
Yeah, I
it is.
You can see there too, even in slow motion, there's really only a split second, like you said. It's a fraction of a second, and you do see Snap go off, right? Like, you do see him try to go for that Ice Block play there. If Venruki was here, I wouldn't have even made a no Ice Block joke. Like, he was put in a very tough situation there. That is for sure.
You just made a joke about not making a joke.
You found a way. I appreciate it.
I hope you're enjoying your break, Venruki. I'll see you soon. Now, this is definitely just a series that I think as we get further and further, it doesn't get any easier to call. I think I'm going to ask Zico right now to make a call here, to try to predict what he thinks is going to happen, but I know how difficult it really is. What do you think the rest of this series does look like?
I think it's a 3-2 for Wildcard, but Wildcard, they are going to be playing the next game on potentially Asherman's Fall, I want to say, or Tolveron Arena, most likely Asherman's Fall. And then it's going to go back and forth. Whenever it's a small map, we're going to see Windwalker Alley. Whenever it's a big map, we're going to see Moonkin Alley. And they're going to have to win one of these swing matches. Now, I do think it is very winnable for them to grab a win on a big map with the Moonkin Alley. But the way C9 has been playing against that particular comp against AWC, as well as in game number 1, it's going to be tough. They need to find a win somehow, and it's going to be tough.
It's definitely going to be tough, but they're going to have a few seconds to actually figure out what they do want to bring. We're going to be jumping to a quick break. You do not want to go anywhere. Folks, we are getting straight into the action here, completely tied up in the series, and both of them, the wins, not exactly what you expected, not exactly how you expected the games to end. Wealthy Man finds himself in a terrible position in the last game. Will Wildcard Gaming be able to set something like that up again, or is Cloud9 going to find another win with the composition that we've really known them for this season?
We're about to find out. Wildcard Gaming sneak away with that kill on Wealthy Man early on, a bit unpredicted, but that is the number one thing with Elemental Shamans, is their unpredictability. Zipai already under fire, ducking for cover with his team around the corner. Lightning Lasso spell locked by Chanimal. Very important to deny that Lightning Lasso as frequently as possible, and Cloud9 on top of it already. Cubsy moves in. All of Cloud9 move in. 3 members. Collapse. Huge damage. Looney trying to recover. Gladiator's Medallion through this push.
This time.
Desperately trying to stay alive throughout it. If they have more Gladiator's Maledicts, it could be trouble. Cubsy secures another stun. Looney manages to make it around the corner, but all three members still low on health.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to compare it to game 1 where neither of them trinketed basically the same coil. Here, they both trinketed. They know the time where Cloud9 push for the win is that infernal play. They get a nice hibernate there, but actually tanking the hibernate's not too bad because it can just get tremored by Zeepai. So actually, probably an intelligent play from Looney. Honestly, doesn't really make too much of a difference, but puts him on the polymorph DR essentially for free. And I just wanted, one other thing I wanted to point out in the midst of all that play was that Mara actually, no, never mind. I saw something I didn't think I saw, but the double trinket coming down, the Infernal not traded out or traded out by Chanimal means that now they don't have that big offensive, but they should push in here because, you know, double trinket being forced in the start is very good for Cloud9.
Cubsy gets swapped too. Wildcard Gaming trying to capitalize on that Feral Affinity selection, but unable to push Cubsy around too easily. Now Morrow getting blasted. Looney easily heals that with Swift Mend. Ultiman gets swapped too. Don't want to see him going down without an Ice Block again here on game number 3, or else they're going to lose their swing match advantage, which is of utmost importance between two teams of this caliber and how many compositions they can bring to the table. So Cloud9 need to win on their map choice. Can they do it now is the question. Cubsy is just chasing Zeepai in cat form. Once again, if I had a timer, I feel like he spends more time in cat form. Finally could be punished for it as he is lightning lasted around the corner, but he's on top of the demonic gateway, which allowed him to easily escape to safety and now recover for free. Maro Zeepai low on health, and Chanimal and Weltyman are playing entirely differently than we normally expect to see. Usually they're just sitting back, relaxing midfield, just tossing out some Chaos Bolts and Frost Bolts, but in this particular matchup, they are all about aggression, chasing down Wildcard Gaming and closing the game out as soon as possible. They know if this goes too far into dampening, the Balance Druid's damage over time effects, as well as Zeepai's instant cast burst, are going to overwhelm them. Cloud9 are on the clock, but they're capitalizing well.
Yep, I completely agree with that. Cloud9 are definitely one of the most scary teams you can have running at you for the double wizards. It's something that we already saw Wildcard Gaming fall to once and once again here, but Cubsy, they're trying to turn it around with the punish. Maldix coming in, forcing only the Iron Bark though, no trinket forced out there. Bit unfortunate for Wildcard Gaming, they would have loved to have got that trinket, make Cubsy think twice when he goes for these offensive plays. Now a big swap over onto Looney, he's trading very greedily here, once again also not using the trinket despite having no bark skin for that stun. Now he's going to cross the map. Maro coming in with the peels, counterspelled on that Cyclone. Looney should be able to top himself, but at the expense of a fair bit of mana, Sid.
Yep, a lot of mana, but let's see if he can manage to find a drink, which on this map he should be able to. Well, the man Cycloned at low health. Chaos Bolt's on Morrow, he's forced to retreat away, unable to follow up anymore, so Weltyman easily recovers. Looney is trying to sneak away. Weltyman, I do believe, sees him blinking over. Did they manage to stop him is the question. I think he's sneaking around in stealth, looking to figure out what is the best position to start a drink, or maybe even just stay in stealth and make them think that he's regenerated mana, or just regenerate mana simply from being out of combat. But Looney is not drinking in his current position, just relying on the out of combat mana regeneration to at least give him a tiny bounce back, as Maro and Zeepai are now getting attacked. We do see Cloud9 pushing forward. Cubsy trying to get some cat form damage out onto, I believe, Morrow here shortly, as well as Looney, going after all three members of Wildcard Gaming, forcing Looney to keep heal over time effects on 3 players and expend more mana than that of himself, because he only has to heal Chanimal and Weltyman. He is able to avoid a lot of damage. Weltyman gets lightning lassoed. Zeepai trying to find a kill, but Chanimal backs him up once again. Solid defense on both sides.
Yep, they got the trinket out of Chanimal there, which is obviously good for them both offensively and defensively, since it now means they can theoretically put some crowd control into Chanimal should he use his Infernal and deny a lot of that incoming damage. We see the coils coming out here, they're committing a fair bit. This is the incarnation from Maro, so they do need to respect it a little bit. If Wealthy Man was going to die without Ice Block, now would probably be the time where it would happen, so he's going to have to play a bit careful. It looks like it was just a little proc incarnation from Maro, so that one only lasts 6 to 8 seconds. Now we see another swap coming over onto Looney. Preemptive Bucks, actually the trinket coming out as well. I wonder if that was an overstep from Looney. That's definitely going to prompt an Infernal push from Cloud9 momentarily, using the trinket, the Barkskin, whilst in bear form, just respecting the damage perhaps too much. That Icy Vein's up in about 15 seconds. Infernal available. Cloud9 should push on Looney momentarily.
At the same time, if they decide to push, Maro has Incarnation and Zeepai is Stormkeeper, so it could backfire on them. They need to push, though. If they don't end the game before Deep Dampening, then they will be overwhelmed, so it's a risky decision. So far, not getting too much value off this Infernal. Zeepai goes after Cubsy in a swap. Could be devastating here as he gets bursted, dispelling that Glaire's Maledict, healing absorption effect, and recovering back to full health. Looney, he's got no bar skin for 13. If there's a stun available, he could easily go down. There's pressure on Zeepai to try and bait Looney out into midfield. Chanimal gets hit hard. Cubsy trades with Iron Bark. Needs to be enough. Desperation for Cloud9 as they polymorph Zeepai, abandoning their pressure to stabilize Chanimal. Cubsy getting interrupted. Could be trouble for Wealthy Man. He's already at half health. Huge Earth Shock connects on the Wealthy Man, and he is going to respect the damage and Ice Block. Fair trade for the Incarnation of Maro.
Yeah, I don't blame him after what happened in the previous game. Wealthy Man, good Ice Block coming in there, but I actually want to commend Wildcard Gaming. They realized that they forced Chanimal's Trinket earlier in the game, and they put every single stun, every single crowd controller into him during that Infernal. Great plays from them. These guys know how to avoid dying. They made the mistake once. They're not going to make the same mistake 2 games in the same series. So now the onus is really on Cloud9. You know, that was the Infernals, that was the Icy Veins. How do they break through the Stonewall defense?
Wealthy Man once again getting bursted. Cubsy has to exchange both Barkskin and Iron Bark as he was being targeted as well as Wealthy Man, so their team is vulnerable in terms of defense, and we're not even deep into dampening, and we're starting to see Cloud9 struggle. If Looney can hold out on mana, prevent himself from being swapped to, Wildcard Gaming are looking solid, and this is the swing match. A lot on the line here. Triple Shadow Fury stalls the damage long enough for Cubsy to stabilize Wealthy Man. MVP Chanimal once again. Zeepai now low on health. Wealthy Man tosses down that frozen orb, but Zeepai is avoiding the heat for now, ducking around with Looney, catching some healing surges. Solar Beam denies the Chaos Bolt. Looney trying to stop Cubsy from drinking as they move across the map. Do they know where he is the question. How much mana will Cubsy get off the back of this? If he can go back to at least full, not too much mana, but still a lead.
Yeah, it was a good drink attempt from Cubsy there. Every time they do that, though, of course, they are kind of playing into Wildcard Gaming's hands a little bit, since it means Wealthy Man and Chanimals are, you know, focusing on avoiding damage at that moment in time, so their healer doesn't have to have the onus of healing. Another lasso coming in from Wealthy Man. Huge damage. You see the grey health coming in from the Maledict. Full bash on Cubsy. They're being really greedy here. A second Ice Block comes out. This is starting to look worse and worse for the North American #1 squad.
Yeah, the pressure that Cloud9 had is not there anymore. Cubsy really hasn't been able to deal a lot of damage to that Feral Affinity, and without his lockdown and extra damage, Cloud9 are just not threatening, and Wildcard Gaming are starting to play with them, and as we get deeper into dampening, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to recover. They've got no ice blocks, 3 minutes away for that. Wealthy Man's trying to hide around the corner. Kind of left Chanimal behind. Nope, now Cubsy jumps in, but gets Ursa's Vortex back midfield. Not able to really connect any stuns just yet. Looney's trying to drink, but he's not able to. There's a Fell Hunter chasing him. Frozen Orb is placed down. Wealthy Man wants to burst somebody, but he's the one actually being bursted. Cubsy trades Iron Bark. It's denied on its defense by a well-timed Cyclone. Chanimal trying to carry the team. Double Mortal Coil. Potential Shadow Fury. Not able to find it. Stops the Cyclone at least. Zeepai left behind. Likely going to be the target here. He's actually left very far behind. Cooldown overlap by Wildcard Gaming and an opening for Cloud9 now moving forward, if they don't even just kill him now.
Yeah, I mean, they forced everything from Zeepai right there. That wasn't even the Infernal. Definitely going to be an opening for them. The Iron Bark also came down there. They do have trinkets available on Looney and Maro. It's going to be up to them to make the correct play here, keep Zeepai alive. Their teammate is definitely in peril at this moment in time. On the flip side, though, you see the Incarnation is available for Maro. They could go for a counter kill on Wealthy Man when Cloud9 go for this next push. I would love to see that from them. I think it would be very smart. Chanimal taking a lot of damage right now. Cubsy doesn't want to trinket for his Warlock. He knows Chanimal can just line of sight, avoid damage. This is the big damage here over onto Wealthy Man. A counter spell onto Zeepai, though, denies that Lightning Lasso. That could have been a big moment there for Wildcard.
Could have been a kill for Wildcard, and if they can take this away from Cloud9, they'll take the swing match advantage. Should this go to a game 5, they will be able to pick the map and the counter composition. Very important for their team overall in terms of their strategies. So Cloud9 need to clamor something together. Dampening is going nowhere but up. Mana is now in favor of Looney. It's looking worse and worse for Cloud9. Cubsy needs to pull off something quick. They've got the cooldowns to do it, though, with Icy Veins and Call Infernal, but Cubsy gets clotheslined. Lightning Lasso in midfield. Chanimal backs him up, though. Once again, just having Chanimal on your team time and time again to save you with perfectly timed crowd control just have to give him credit. Cubsy stays alive as a result of that. Cloud9 waiting to get out of crowd control and charge forward, but Wealthy Man's getting blasted. Chanimal drops the call Infernal to try and clothesline him. Once again, protecting his team and trying to counter-aggress at the same time. Fearing Maro out in the midfield. Chanimal trying to build up some huge damage with that Rain of Fire. Every soul shard he spends during Infernals ramps up his damage further and further, but he's solar beamed. After that solar beam, he gets bashed. They've prevented Chanimals from getting any sort of counter pressure out. Perfect denial. Now Wealthy Man getting bursted, but they do manage to at least interrupt the lightning lasso. Icy Veins pop. They need to get a kill now. Cloud9 have to get a kill now. If they do not, they will be overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking pretty good. They forced everything from Wildcard on this push. This is the Infernal. If they survive this, Wildcard will surely win this match. They've played to their win condition. Wealthy Man has been forced to retreat, and now it's starting to look like Wildcard have done it in this game. They did get the trinket from Looney. There's no Astral Shift, there's no Ironbark, there's no Barkskin. There are very few cooldowns for Wildcard Gaming at this moment in time, but because of those 2 ice blocks forced earlier in the game, Wealthy Man wasn't able to fully commit. Now we see Chanimal caught up, the Innovate, Ironbark, all of these cooldowns being overlapped from Cloud9. We're at almost 40% dampening, 40% healing reduction for both these healers, and the raw damage that Wildcard will do throughout the game is starting to add up.
Things are snowballing out of control. Can Wealthy Man and Chanimal do it? Can they close it out and keep the swing match advantage for their team? Or Wildcard Gaming going to just destroy them? Maro is pinned down in bear form, unable to really counter pressure. Looney is struggling. His mana is so low. Potentially Cloud9 can overwhelm them, but we see Cubsy in a bash into a Cyclone. Chanimal all alone. He's trying to get around the corner, manages to, but eats an Earthshock right before he could. Drain lifing off the Elemental to recover himself, while Cubsy is Cyclone, trying to take every single advantage that he can in potentially the final seconds of this match.
That was the triple Maledict push there from Cloud9, and Maro didn't even trade Renewal. Now you can see Wildcard Gaming, they taste blood in the water. That incarnation from Maro up in 10 seconds. Huge damage potential on the side of Wildcard Gaming momentarily here. Double Ice Block is available for Wealthy Man, so he survived till his defense, which is very good, but Chanimals could well be the kill target.
I think Chanimal is definitely going to be the target at this point with 2 ice blocks available, although having pressure on 2 targets is going to be better than 1 for Wildcard Gaming. Anyone could die at this point. I could easily see cross kills in this game. You do not want to go anywhere as it is down to the wire. Maro's just getting owned. He needs 1 more second. Connects with Renewal. That may not be enough. Chanimal is dipping low. This could go down to a 2 versus 2 at 45% dampening. Maro manages to hold out just a bit longer. Nether Ward denies the kill on Chanimal. Drain life, anything to stay alive, anything to keep the swing match in their favor. Cloud9 try and crawl back in this fight. Maro gets interrupted. Cubsy jumps in. He knows it's do or die. He has to add extra damage to the team if they want to win, but if he spends too long in cap form, he's not healing the team, but it's a risk he has to take. He's got no mana. Chanimal's so low. Double Mortal Coil. Can Chanimal pull off the miracle?
I mean, actually, Looney was able to sit down for a drink a little bit earlier. He restored the mana. He has the advantage over Cubsy right now, but somehow, someway, Cloud9 survived. The incarnation is down. Cubsy is going on offense. Chanimal's not even there. Maro so low on health, down to 30%, camping that bear form, not dealing any damage at this moment in time. Cubsy is still in cat form, dealing damage. It's a delicate game. It's a dangerous game. Cloud9 versus Wildcard Gaming, the swing match, game 3. Infernal lands. Cloud9 are so close to securing this.
Maro, Looney, they're on the run. They don't have much. These Infernals are going to be devastating. If Chanimal gets any Chaos Bolts off, it's going to be the end of the match. He doesn't even maybe need it. They're just taking him out. Shadow Fury lands. Chaos Bolt gets Solar Beam to the last second. Maro ducks for cover. Any Chaos Bolt is going to close this. Cubsy is stunned up. Chanimal moves in. Maro gets bursted. Where's the Chaos Bolt? He needs to get it. He gets Lightning Lassoed. Mortal Coil. Chaos Bolt gets casted. It's going to be good. Maro gets taken down, and Cloud9 keep the swing match advantage.
Oh my goodness. And for anyone just tuning in, keep in mind, you can actually see Maro sweating a little bit there. And I will tell you right now, it is very cold in this arena. That is such a crazy way for it to end. Of course, that dampening prophecy is going to start coming true there. We go into a very, very late stage of that game. But I just want to remind everybody who is just tuning in, these are 2 teams that have not yet lost in this tournament. And on top of that, they 3-0'd their opponents previously. An even match, to say the least. Why does it end up going the way that it does?
It just comes down to Cubsy. I think the better part of the last minute in this game, Cubsy was just in cat form with pretty much 0 mana, just looking at Maro, trying to take him down. And at the end of this one, Chanimals finally gets his Infernals back. Looney, he had the mana lead, but he couldn't quite recover. Unfortunately, Chanimal setting up for that big Chaos Bolt. Morrow stopping that. Zipai doing what he can to heal up, but dampening is just too high. They're looking here to counter pressure to get the crowd control, and at this point Chanimal would go down, but beautiful double Mortal Coil manages to get the Chaos Bolt and close out the game before Morrow's renewal comes back up. If he gets that renewal off, I think Wildcard Gaming just walks away with that one. They had so much damage loaded up there for Chanimal, and he had nothing to work with. Offense was their best defense there, and that's what really made the difference.
I think Morrow probably agreed with you there. You could see that reaction of just like, that split second once again. And how many times in this series? I don't think any of us have said split second this entire season. And today we've said it about 8 times, and they've all been in this series. It really is right on the razor's edge every single time. But Cloud9 going to find themselves in the driver's seat headed into the next game. And Adrian, I want to ask you again, compositions. Can there be any changes headed into this next game? Because this does seem to be 2 teams with a lot of tools to work with.
I actually found this particular draft very interesting for Cloud9. I was wondering if they were going to go with the RMD, because typically it's been the answer to these elemental shaman compositions. We know they have a good RMD, but clearly they're even more confident in this Mage Lock Druid in the matchup. They feel like they win not only early, but clearly they feel like they have a good chance in the late game as well, and they proved it there on the largest map. I think for Game 4, there's a good chance that we see another small map coming in from Wildcard Gaming. We go back to that elemental Windwalker Mistweaver, which did them so good in Game 2. But Game 5, the swing match will be once again in favor of Cloud9, and I don't honestly know what Wildcard Gaming is going to do about that.
Super, can you imagine being on the lower side of the bracket right now and knowing you're going to have to play against one of these teams?
Well,
that's just 3 people.
Change my mind, know that they're already just kind of like, yeah, we're here, we're going to do our best. So I don't know if they really care, but I mean, if you had to pick, if you're them, change my mind, I feel like you're rooting for Cloud9 a little bit, just because they have less melee cleave composition. So the Shadow Priest Rogue, maybe it could pull something off there. And I'm really pulling at straws in terms of that. Being with only 3-man roster, their hopes are pretty low, but they've played a phenomenal tournament despite that disadvantage. So moving forward, I think they kind of want Cloud9 to go down to the lower bracket and avoid Wildcard Gaming, but either way, it's going to be rough for them tomorrow. Obviously, Wildcard Gaming want to take it, although losing there. Now they can set up for a small map. They can set up for the Windwalker Elemental Shaman, although we didn't really get to see that play out. I mean, we saw a Wealthy Man going down without an Ice Block. You can't really count that match in terms of these compositions matching up against each other. So moving forward, potentially we see Cloud9 just close it out.
Well, I do want to say, Adrian, when you were watching that matchup, you were like, this is the exact matchup that I just don't ever really want to play Mage. This is one of the reasons I don't want to do it. Is that a win condition that is repeatable for Wildcard Gaming?
I do think so, yeah. I mean, the Elemental, that's one of the other benefits. Not only are you very slippery, hard to kill, like, you do have incredibly high burst damage, and it is reliable. You know, you build up your stacks for your big Earth Shock, and then you do it out of a Lightning Lasso, which keeps the guy pinned in a stun. So if you get a couple of crits there, and the guy already started at like 70% health, you could easily take him down, even without help from your partner, to be honest. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not even convinced that Cloud9 wins that game if they don't get a random kill for 10 minutes. You know, I think it is a good matchup for Wildcard. I'm just not 100% sure if, you know, let's say we go to a bigger map and they blind lock the Elemental Windwalker, that, for example, a Rogue Mage would lose to that. I think that's where Rogue Mage really shines.
When I'm looking at both of these teams, and this is big picture here, but it goes back to the idea that Zico had that a lot of us really did agree with, that, well, I don't want to say a lot of us agreed with it. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. I think we all agree with the sentiment that as of right now, these are 2 of the top teams, but what Zico really said was the idea of whoever wins this probably goes on to win the entire tournament. I think that there is a very real chance right now that we're looking at one of the grand final winners right now with these 2 teams. When you look at the compositions that they do have, do you think that anybody has more favored compositions here, Zico, for the entire field of play for the tournament?
Well, I think Wildcard Gaming has more compositions, but the thing that's so unique about Cloud9 is that they just toss the meta aside and they play their own thing. Mm-hmm. Other people have tried to copy it, but they just can't do it to that same success, and you can't get practice against that. You can practice against a Windwalker DK that's, you know, let's say 90% as good as Wildcard Gaming, which is still really good practice, but you're not going to get that same practice against a Mage Warlock Druid of the caliber of Cloud9, and that is their advantage, and that's what I really liked about it as well. When we were talking to them, they said, we didn't practice more comps, we didn't decide to bring in more things to the tournament. Instead, we kept working on what we already are good at on our strengths, and I think something like that really does go a long way. And then you add in the LAN experience that they have as well. It's a tough foe to beat.
Yeah, and I think it does go into their mentality, too, of what they really do see to be the biggest strength on their team. We heard it from Snuts when we had a chance to talk to him. Just basically said, without even batting an eyelash, he was just like, yeah, look, like, we have the best individual skill. We're so confident in each and every one of the players on the roster. This is a team that Snuts and Chant saying for so long that it didn't seem like it would be possible. They always wanted to play together. The meta makes sense for them to do it now, and they can still play these compositions that really just suit their own individual playstyle. But I want to ask with Wildcard Gaming as well. We talked about the idea of they were heating up, and we see in the most recent lands that they looked like the most dominant team in Europe. I think Adrian basically said, you know, Cloud9 finds themselves in, maybe it was Supertease, Cloud9 finds themselves in the best spot in NA, and although Wildcard doesn't find themselves in that best spot, that's going to go to Method Black. If you only watched the last few cups, it looked like Wildcard Gaming was actually in that best spot. But when we started interviewing them, when we first got here to Ohio, there were questions as to whether or not they were going to be still heating up, if they were still on that trajectory, or if they had stagnated. They're starting to get tested here more and more. Do we feel like they are on the highest level, potentially the best team in Europe, potentially even better than Method Black, like they looked like online? Or have they stagnated? Have some of the teams managed to catch up to them?
I mean, I really do think there's a top three. So when we say catching up, I think we're talking about Cloud9, Wildcard Gaming, and Method Black. For me, this is the hierarchy right now. This is the golden standard. And Wildcard Gaming, if you think back to 2018, you know, they were called XRB to the moon, I think, for the majority of the year. Zico and I, time and time again, in fact, we all did, we all said that they were the team to beat over and over. But when it came to LAN, people beat them. Always Method Black would beat them, or Method Orange would beat them. At BlizzCon, they were the favorite for the majority of people. Method Orange wiped the water. They 3-0'd them. And I think this is a problem, a reoccurring problem that Wildcard Gaming have had. They look fantastic online. Every single time they look great. But I picked Method Black to be my favorite for this tournament because when it comes to LAN, I just feel like they always have something prepared. They must have something for this Mage Lock Druid. And Cloud9, again, I think that potentially they could be my second pick because Snuts on LAN, Chanimal's on LAN. These guys are... I mean, Chanimal's plays with like 500 ping on LAN.
True.
He's still #1. Bring him here.
I will, just to contest that slightly, though, and Zico, I'm curious how you feel about that. I do feel like there was a dip even online for them last year, and then when they got to Poland, they looked pretty good. Like, I feel like you have to say that land, they looked pretty strong.
Yeah, that's the best they've ever looked. And it's funny that you mentioned the ping because Chanimal is from Australia. After their first match, he came up to me and said, well, I have 0 ping, how can I lose?
Yeah, exactly.
Still an All-American hero in my book, though. Everything that he's done for NA. But let's take a look at Cloud9 versus Wildcard Gaming. Him and Ben Rookie, man. Cloud9 going to be leading in this series.
All right, Zeepai the target of choice here. Cubsy is still playing with confidence in that Feral Affinity role, adding some extra damage and maybe an early kill. If they can close this out, they'll advance in the upper bracket. They're on match point. There's lots of damage, and it's not stopping. Huge heals out from Looney. Potential Way of the Crane opportunity for him here as the Frozen Orb is placed. Deciding not to go for it. Wealthy Man blinks away. No, now going for the Way of the Crane. Going to be going after Chanimal. Iron Bark appears to be enough right now to stabilize Chanimal through these hits. Is it going to be? Nether Ward now at 50%. Denies any sort of follow-up burst. Looney's Way of the Crane is going to be fading, and with it, the added damage bonus. Zeepai now in a better position, able to duck around the corner should he need to avoid Chaos Bolts. Infernals are down. Chanimal looking to ramp up. Curious to see if they go after Blizzo with these big Chaos Bolts, or if they're going to go after Zeepai once again. Blizzo gets stunned up by Cubsy. Once again, great utilization of that Feral Affinity, sneaking away, dropping combat, going into stealth to be able to gain access to that Rake stun, holding Blizzo down in place for the Wizard friends, Chanimal and Wealthy Man to have at him. Let's see what Cubsy can do here. Blizzo is dishing out a ton of pink. Chanimal's going to reposition downstairs and towards the wall. This way, if Blizzo overextends, he moves past 2 points of line of sight for Looney to heal him. So rather than overextending, he's going to switch targets. But if he switches targets, then Chanimal's left open. So good awareness by Chanimal there to reposition. Now he can freely cast some Chaos Bolts.
Yeah, I really like the way that Cloud9 has changed the way they're playing this game. Like, previously, even in this matchup, they played quite aggressively, I think, but now they've kind of taken a step back. They're like, okay, we're not playing against a Moonkin Elemental where we clearly need to be very aggressive and forcing the issue. They're playing against the Windwalker, and if there's things Wizards like to do, it's, you know, sit back, attack the Windwalker, attack the melee, abuse the melee. It's a classic situation for a team like this, and Cloud9 have definitely adapted their playstyle between Game 2, where we saw this matchup, in Game 4. They're sitting back a bit more, Wealthy Man's avoiding more damage, and hence Wildcard Gaming are being forced to attack Chanimals, and Chanimals is a little harder to kill. That said, he's taking a fair bit of damage, and Cubsy has to react with the Iron Bark.
Ring of Peace bounces Chanimal around the corner and out of line of sight, and Cubsy has a lot of recovery to do, a ton of work. Wildcard Gaming switch their burst to Wealthy Man. He pre-activates Temporal Shield. This absorbs a huge amount of damage during that Lightning Lasso and heals him back to full. Good awareness on Wealthy Man's part, realizing that swap was coming. This way now Cubsy can sneak away, potentially drink, but on the small maps, Wildcard Gaming selected. Will he be able to find that opportunity? Looks like he managed to sneak away, but I'm not sure how much mana he's been able to regenerate just yet. Touch of Death gets activated. Blizzo, rather than denying the drink, is trying to counter-aggress, and they will trade mana for cooldowns, but Wealthy Man is still low on health. Cubsy needs to recover 2 targets. That's not going to be cheap to heal through. Now he's still crowd-controlled, and 2 members are still low. We do anticipate Wildcard Gaming's composition to take this, but we did not see the composition play out long enough to really know if it will. However, going to Game 5, if you're Wildcard Gaming, do you take the gamble? Do you run with the Windwalker on a large map? I'm not sure. I mean, it looks solid into the Mage Warlock so far. There's just constant pressure. Looney is maximum mana the whole time. It seems like, why wouldn't Wildcard Gaming play this composition the entire series?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens as Dampening starts to rank up, because the Mistweaver is very strong early game. Like, the mana is great. But as the game gets longer and longer, I feel like the Mistweaver will lack the throughput healing of the Restoration Druid, and that could be a potential weakness for Wildcard Gaming. And I think Cloud9 recognizes that a little bit. That's why they're sitting back. They're happy to kind of play this slightly slower game here, knowing that eventually, let's say the game does go to Dampening, as Wildcard Gaming often take us to Dampening, then maybe they have their chances there. You know, it's not guaranteed that Wildcard wins that. It's definitely going to be scary for Wealthy Man to make it that far, but he's been playing it well so far. If 0 mistakes come out, I think Cloud9's got a fair chance in this one.
All right, Chanimal exposed for another minute and 40 seconds without that unending resolve. A vital defensive cooldown, that red icon below his health. When there's a number on it, it means he can't use it for that amount of time. And without it, he could get blown up by that of Zeepai and Blizzo. Touch of Death available in 24 seconds. Let's see what Blizzo can get done with that. Cubsy has done a great job maintaining his mana despite the mana, or the map disadvantage in that regard. Still keeping even with Looney as we get closer to Dampening. Chanimal trinketing, nether warding to try and avoid some Gladiator's Maledicts, but now no trinket for him to avoid the Touch of Death, available in 5 seconds, and still being pressured even without it. Stormkeeper available for Zeepai. He could line up some huge burst potentially for the team and close this out and take it to a Game 5. Cooldowns available, and Wildcard Gaming wait to pull the trigger.
Yep, they're waiting a little bit. Blizzo's been doing a fantastic dancing game, like we talked about the top US Windwalkers being impactful, but as I say that, here comes the Infernal. Actually an excellent Thunderstorm from Zeepai. The Infernal does a lot of cleave damage, so Thunderstorming it away will buy them a fair bit. That's probably like 50k damage at least that he prevented with that. Now they're swapping over to Blizzo, but Blizzo's been dancing in and out on this small map beautifully. This guy's played 44 games for Wildcard Gaming this season, and 42 of them have been on that Windwalker Monk. So he's very familiar with the class now, more so than last year, I would argue, and he's been fantastic. Looks like they're dealing with this Infernal like pros, but you've got to be careful because that one Chaos Bolt could change anything. Even
one Chaos Bolt during this call Infernal could close the game out, so Wildcard Gaming cannot afford to disrespect this time in the match, but those Infernals have now faded. They will be feeling a lot more safe. No Icy Veins for Wealthy Man. If I'm Wildcard Gaming, it's time to go. It's time to make a push, and they are doing so. Wealthy Man down at half, and Cubsy looking to regenerate mana. Jumping in and catching Blizzo. Big combo by Wealthy Man off the back of that stun. Blizzo rolls out of line of sight, likely to relay that Transcendence, but it left in midfield. If he uses that, he will still be exposed to casted spells, and that could cost him his life later on, and I'm curious to see if it does.
Yeah, it's something that he needs to be mindful of. I think a lot of the time Cloud9's been kind of kiting downstairs onto that mesh, so maybe he thinks as long as it's just somewhere on a hierarch, but I agree with you, there's no reason not to put it behind the box, right? Like, it would just be better positioning. Something that Blizzo maybe needs to think about, but he's going aggro right now over onto Chanimals, keeping up the pressure, keeping up the Mortal Strike effect, reducing any incoming healing from Cubsy, I think is smart, just trying to keep some pressure going, give them something to think about so they don't get too aggressive onto Looney. But now, dampening starting to rank up. It's up to 11%. Blizzo actually used the touch of Karma there a little bit preemptively. He wasn't really low on health. Maybe he was expecting a stun to come in, but I wonder if they can punish that maybe.
Curious to see if they can moving forward. Wildcard Gaming have to take this if they want to stay in the upper bracket. They're swapping to Cubsy. They're desperate. Can they pull it off? Is now the question. Might. There's a lot of damage. Gliders safeguard, is that going to be enough? It may not be. Cubsy tries to gate across the map on a sliver of health, managing to stay alive throughout that onslaught. But as dampening continues to mount, another swap like that, and Cubsy's probably not making it out of that situation alive. Looney still has a lot of mana in the tank for Way of the Crane, and that is a threat that they need to be ready for, as at any moment he could activate it and increase his damage immensely. Yeah,
as dampening starting to ramp up, there's definitely some pressure coming out of Wildcard Gaming. Good swap over onto Cubsy there. He had about 20 seconds left on his trinket, so they had to pull the trigger there. Almost able to get the kill with the triple Maldic, but of course, that is a huge commitment from Wildcard Gaming. So now those Maldics are down for 2 minutes. Cloud9 can be even more aggressive. Interestingly enough, Cubsy's been really playing this game passively. Like, his mana is full. He could be more in their face, but I think he knows that, the double Monk can definitely get the swaps over with the double leg sweep, the stun from the Elemental Shaman. There's so many threats on the side of Wildcard Gaming, and this is really going to go down to the last couple of seconds. And I'm honestly not sure who wins this. We haven't really seen the Elemental Windwalker play out during the Cups. We've heard a lot about it. This is the first time we're seeing it on the stage.
I'd be more confident in it if Cubsy was out of mana, which is what he is supposed to be on this map. But he has full mana. In that situation, I think that Cloud9 still have it. And despite the advantage that Wildcard Gaming were looking to establish, it's just not there. They're running out of time. Let's see if they can do it. Call Infernals are available for Chanimal, and once again, that's a big threat. That green icon with the skull. If that goes on cooldown, Chanimal's activated it, and his Chaos Bolts are going to increasingly get bigger and bigger. Wealthy Man has Icy Veins as well. I would say it's the blue icon below his health bar, but there's a lot of them, so at this point, it may not be the best decision, but any cooldown on that bottom bar is huge burst for the Mage, although he is in trouble. He stabilizes. Wealthy Man baits Blizzo downstairs. He's got him snared up. Chanimal could set up for big Chaos Bolts on Blizzo. He is able to not actually avoid the Chaos Bolt, but at least get out of line of sight. Catch some Vivifies. Cubsy moves in, trying to support the team and hold them in place. I will say that Wealthy Man's Blizzards are perfectly placed, pinning the team down and resetting the cooldown of his Frozen Orb quite frequently. Ursul's Vortex pulling the team back in, and Cloud9 are starting to build some momentum.
This is one of the advantages that Warlock brings over the Shadow Priest too. Like, you have so much damage you can put on a team behind a pillar. Obviously the Blizzard and the Frozen Orb, Cubsy jumping in with the stuns, the Ursul's Vortex to force them away. But Chanimals also brings a fair bit with the Cataclysm, the Infernals, like dampening going up and sitting behind a pillar isn't necessarily going to keep Wildcard Gaming alive in this matchup. They have to go for some big aggressive push, I think, either on Chanimals or Wealthy Man. My guess would probably be Chanimals because he doesn't have, the 2 immunity ice blocks, which Wildcard Gaming haven't forced just yet in this game. I'm not sure what percentage they pull the trigger though, because so far, neither team's been willing to give up as much as a cooldown. Chanimal's now being the target of choice for Blizzo, but he always takes the worst part of the exchange because of those stuns, because of those kiting, and he just has to expose himself.
I love that positioning from Chanimal. He was on the Demonic Gateway, realizing that Touch of Death was available, and as soon as it was activated, he uses the Demonic Gateway beside Cubsy and in line of sight of Wealthy Man. So if Blizzo wants to overextend and get that burst, he exposes himself to potentially going down. So it's perfect positioning, strategical play from Chanimal here on Dalaran Sewers, and likely to close. Big Mortal Coil. Blizzo barely gets the touch of Karma, redirecting the damage to a different target other than himself. Zeepai gets polymorphed away. Wealthy Man just pausing out the fight, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for that Infernal, waiting for Chanimal.
Yep, they get a good double stun. Really nice play from Blizzo there. That's a rare positional mistake from Cubsy. They're looking to punish this right here, right now. Chanimal down to 40% health. The Infernal comes out. This is the counterplay from Cloud9, but it's so much damage. The wall, the Iron Buck, big defensives overlapped, and Blizzo's like, yep, I got what I wanted. I didn't have to commit my Touch of Death. Transcendence behind the pillar. Now he needs to avoid damage on this Inferno. If they can stay alive here, rotate until that Touch of Karma and Touch of Death come up in about 50 seconds, Cloud9 will not have the answers. Finally, a win condition potentially opens up for Wildcard.
This is still a hard-fought battle for Wildcard Gaming. Even if they manage to take it, they're not going to have the map advantage or the comp advantage for game number 5. So they're going to have to battle it out to the absolute bitter end between these titans from both North America and the European region. Chanimal, he's pinned down. Ooh, not much defense. Triple stun lock combo by Wildcard Gaming as they look to close. Lightning Lasso could be lethal. Nether Ward on low health. 10 more seconds. Cubsy needs 8 more seconds. Is he going to make it to that point? Chanimal's trying to buy him time. Looney knows that they're overwhelming Chanimal. He's going to commit the Life Cocoon preemptively to just allow Blizzo to stay in. But once again, Chanimal with perfect positioning. Gateways tries to get to safety, is able to at least avoid Zeepai. Zeepai is polymorphed out of line of sight. He's out of the fight. He can't add any pressure to the team. This is allowing Chanimal an opportunity to breathe, an opportunity to just close this series out. Can they pull it off, Adrian?
But this, I don't think so. This is the win condition I was talking about. Touch of Karma and Touch of Death available. I'd love to see Blizzo just commit some of those cooldowns offensively. Cubsy, no trinket, no wall on Chanimal. The Iron Bark, I don't think it'll be enough at 45% dampening. Blizzo dropping low, but he has both of his defensive cooldowns. They're going for the all-in. They pull the trigger. Here comes the Touch of Death. Chanimals without the big healing from the Soul Leech this deep into dampening. A good early Iron Bark from Cubsy. Is this actually going to be enough? The crowd control from Wealthy Man, he's playing it perfectly. Triple Sheep, Fears coming out. So much crowd control from this Mage Lock Druid. The Touch of Karma from Blizzo, but Chanimals has somehow, some way survived. Is he still going to stay up? I'm not sure. There's the lasso. The trinket comes out. It's anyone's guess, Sid.
I mean, at this point, 50% dampening, no mana, no cooldowns. It's likely to be Wildcard Gaming's game. Cubsy just not able to connect the heals, and Chanimal will fall in game number 4. We're going all the way.
Yeah, this is a series that deserves a game 5 as well. I think we all wanted to see it come down to this. Why is it going to go all the way to the game 5?
Well, it comes down to that one push they got to force out the unending resolve. They didn't have the Touch of Death. They didn't have the Touch of Karma available, but they had Zeepai. Zeepai with the Stormkeeper manages to get enough damage to force out Chanimal's unending resolve, and that opens up the win condition. Now that you have the Touch of Death, now that you have the Touch of Karma, you can go in, you can get those cooldowns rolling, and at this point, dampening is so high, you can just overwhelm Cubsy with the damage. You know, Wealthy Man doing a great job with the ice events, trying to deflect the situation, but it's not going to be enough. Blizzo, he gets so much uptime with these cooldowns, and of course Zeepai as well, assisting with the lasso, with the Stormkeeper, and that's going to be enough for them to actually take this game. But how repeatable is it? And more importantly, on a larger map, I don't think we're going to be able to see the what we just saw here.
Yeah, I mean, also you have to think which way the advantage is going to go. We could be seeing a very different game, right? We could see some different compositions come out. Sid, how do you expect this one actually does end?
I mean, if you're Wildcard Gaming, that looks like a solid comp into the Mage Warlock overall, even on a big map. I mean, they didn't run Cubsy out of mana until way later into dampening anyway, so if I'm Wildcard Gaming, I think I go for the Windwalker and the Elemental Shaman.
Just lock that in. Yeah. Adrian, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree for slightly different reasons, though. I think I wouldn't lock in the Moonkin Elemental because in game 3, I wasn't even convinced that they win late against the Mage Lock Druid. Like, Chanimal's with the Inferno, even if they hadn't killed that, it's like they were going to recover, I think, and it's not an easy matchup. The concern I do have, I would still lock in the Windwalker Elemental, I'm just saying, but the concern I do have is that maybe Rogue Mage Druid is really good in that matchup. I'm not 100% sure. We haven't seen Windwalker Elemental. We've heard a lot about it. All the teams are like, should we play this? We've seen like 4 or 5 of the top rosters practicing it. But Rogue Mage Druid has traditionally been really good against these kind of elemental melee comps like Thundercleave in the past. It could be a tough one.
It definitely could be, but we might get to see it. We're going to find out very shortly. We're going to give the players a few seconds to decide what they're going to play in the last game of the series. Two teams that absolutely dominated in their first matchup of the day have made it to a Game 5, looking like a completely different series than what these guys saw in those 3-0s early on. And now, Game 5, who's going to be able to stay in the top side of the bracket to get that matchup? That puts them, what, one match away from getting to the grand finals, essentially. So it's a pretty great start to your tournament, setting yourself up well for Sunday. And you guys are just going back and forth trying to figure out what you actually think the compositions are going to look like. So obviously not everybody at home got to hear that conversation. We're going to get the answer right now. How do you feel about this, Zico?
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. You don't really want to lock in the Windwalker on Tolvaron Arena because the Windwalker, the reason why they were able to get kills on Dalaran Sewers and on Hook Point is because of the uptime of the Windwalker. He needs to stay in long enough to essentially go through the Iron Bark, wait for it to fade, still have the Warlock on low HP, and then kill him. Now, you also don't want to lock in the Moonkin Ellie when you lost twice on large maps with it either. So I feel like Cloud9 really has this game in a checkmate position, and that's because the final game will be on Tolvaron Arena because they won on Nagran. So we've been going back and forth about what we should see here. Ultimately, though, I don't want to see the Windwalker, but I also don't think this is a great pick. Maybe we were talking about maybe the Mage Ellie, which is something Wildcard have been playing. Either way, the big difference here, though, is Looney's going to be on the Mistweaver, which could be nice for them.
It's really interesting, this pick, and I agree with you. Like we were talking, we honestly don't know what to recommend in this situation, but I do like the fact that they're changing something, because losing O2 and then going to an even bigger map where I don't think that helps them in any way, it doesn't make sense. But Looney on the Mistweaver has had such good mana conservation combined with that Moonkin and the Innovate for the Way of the Crane. I think it does make a lot of sense, and this is what they won 3-0 with at the start of the day, so they've got to try it, I think.
Yep, going to the big map, you do need to play with that in mind, and you don't want to fall to the lower side of the brackets. One of the teams going to do it right here and now. Is it going to be Cloud9 or Wildcard Gaming?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the upper bracket between Cloud9, Wildcard Gaming. It's come down all the way to game number 5. But because Cloud9 won the blind pick and kept their swing match advantage in a narrow victory on Ashrane's Fall earlier on, they now hold all of the cards here in game number 5.
So I'm just so happy. Like last time I cast it was BlizzCon. Now for the spring finals, my first cast back in 2019, Cloud9 vs Wildcard Gaming, the series we've been anticipating forever, has gone to game 5. It doesn't get much better than this, ladies and gentlemen. The spring finals, the best teams in Europe and North America vying for that first BlizzCon spot of 2019. Cloud9 and Wildcard Gaming, 2 of the top contenders for that spot. And I mean, I honestly couldn't tell you who's going to win this one. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Looney switching over to Mistweaver makes a little bit of a change up here for the team, and he will not need to drink as frequently as Cubsy, so potentially an edge there. I do like the Mistweaver Balance Druid combination with Innervate. It makes a healer's spells free, including Way of the Crane, which is probably the most expensive spell for a healer in the game. Maro, though, getting bursted early on as Looney sits through crowd control. No follow-up, but if he gets interrupted, it could be it. Decides to trade Life Cocoon rather than being interrupted and unable to, so a preemptive measure that Looney takes here, precautionary. And I'm curious to see how Looney navigates this matchup, because we don't usually see Mistweaver selected into a mage as they are so exposed to crowd control, especially on Tolvaron Arena. This is probably going to be the most difficult game Looney has played of his 2019 tournament life.
Yeah, this is playing a Mistweaver into Mage Warlock is very difficult, because as a Mistweaver, your only avoidance for crowd control is your partners and, you know, how you play the line of sight. You don't have a wind shear, you don't have shapeshift from a druid. It's very difficult, and I mean, Looney is the healer you'd want here. You know, his Mistweaver is the only character in this tournament that's over 3,000 rated on either ladder. He's been playing it fantastically, and this build with the, I think it's called Chrysalysis or something like this, is the honor talent, which reduces the cooldown on the bubble for the Mistweaver, alongside the Azerite talent that you can play the Burst of Life. Basically means that you have about a 55-second on that Life Cocoon, and that is the kind of only reason that Mistweavers are okay into mages, is because you can play that, you can kind of do those preemptive Life Cocoons, and it gives you enough time to stabilize through the counter spells, which Cloud9 have been so good at landing.
So Cubsy has decided to not run with Cyclone, instead running the honor talent Mark of the Wild, which is super effective against both Balance Druids and Elemental Shamans, reducing all of the damage of Wildcard Gaming effectively. So that's a smart decision on Cubsy's part. Then running the Master Shapeshifter with Feral Affinity to add some extra damage to his team. It's an interesting build and unique to him on Cloud9 and their Mage Warlock Druid. So if you're at home wondering what Cubsy is running, you can check on the extension and pull all of that information for you yourself to use in competitive play. Zeepai and Maro and Looney are just pinned at the pillar, unable to really push out, but even still tossing out some counter pressure. Wealthy Man hovering at about 50% currently.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it's worth noting that these teams, they have add-ons. You know, there's a couple of changes. They don't have the PvE trinkets, for example, on the tournament server, so that's going to be slightly different. Despite the fact they don't have the gear of the old gods, though, they're definitely doing the old gods bidding, slaying each other throughout this tournament. It's been fantastic to watch. It's been a good day of World of Warcraft PvP. It's a good Game 5 here to see who's going to go through to the upper bracket final tomorrow. Maro, once again, the life cocoon from Looney to keep him stable. The Infernals there, actually, from Channels, didn't really achieve too much. Definitely one of the least impactful ones we've seen from Cloud9 so far. That was the Icy Veins as well from Wealthy Man. That big offensive push, just one little life cocoon. That's where the Mistweaver becomes so strong, because you have that massive single target bubble you can apply on such a short cooldown.
I'm just wondering if Wildcard Gaming are going to just go for whittle down the team, stay at the pillar, or if they're going to go for coordinated crowd control assaults. So far, crowd control has been effective with Cyclone and Cubsy, 2 members of the team low. Follow up with Paralysis, but Chanimal once again denies it with the double Mortal Coil. Another opening closed by Cloud9 and Chanimal. Cubsy looks like he's moving in, stunning up Looney, but without running Cyclone, can't follow it up with anything. Maro gets bursted. Chanimal's still actually low on health. Despite the fact that Wildcard Gaming are on the run, they're still putting up a fight.
I actually wonder if Cyclone could be useful for Cubsy in this matchup. I guess he's favoring the additional damage from the Master Shapeshifter, but that really depends on him, you know, being in cap form firstly to even get benefit from that honor talent. And maybe the Cyclones at low health against the Mistweaver in particular could actually be really useful on those life cocoons. We'll have to see how the game plays out. Damage is normally king when it comes to these wizard cleaves, so I can definitely respect the choice from Cubsy. Looney, once again, has been doing a tremendous job. This is the other strength of the Mistweaver, is that his mana is just so good, his mana management. Still at 80% after 5 minutes of healing through this deadly Mage Lock Druid.
Healthy Man low on health and able to stabilize for now as Cubsy sits through a leg sweep. Looney gets feared, Z-Pi backs him up, Tremor Totem breaks that crowd control effect. Wealthman needs to be careful, cannot afford to go down, throw away Game 5 and go down to the lower bracket. They do not want to go down into those murky waters if they do not have to. They've set up themselves so well for victory here in this best of 5 now against Wildcard Gaming. Can Cloud9, the #1 seeded team from North America, keep the dream alive? And it is important to note that the first place team from this tournament will qualify directly to BlizzCon. And if Cloud9, the top point earner from North America, wins it, their points suddenly don't matter. And if you're every other team in North America below them, you have a better opportunity at qualifying. So if you're a North American fan, you're cheering for North America. On the other hand, if you're a European fan, the same case is so, and you're cheering for Europe. So you don't want to go anywhere. Even if your favorite team is eliminated, still the other teams have a chance to contribute to their victory later on in the year.
Yeah, more so than normal. You fancy a region, you want any of your teams to do well, you got to make sure they all do well. It's a mutually beneficial situation. I actually caught off the corner of my eye Method Black looking at this series longingly, because they will see the winner of this as their biggest rival for the tournament. So they're going to have a keen eye on this one, seeing what strategies the teams are doing, and ultimately who comes out on top. They will, of course, be on our next series, the boys versus Method Black. Stay tuned for that one. Now we're starting to hit dampening, 10% healing reduction for all members of this map. Looney starting to maybe push for offensive CC. That's the question we have, is how is the win condition going to play out for Wildcard Gaming? Previously, they've just dotted everyone, but so far this game, they've been ignoring Cubsy to some extent, just going for little crowd controls with the in-cap, potentially with stuns coming out of Looney as well, whilst favoring the DPS. And Wealthy Man, I think he's done a good job of dealing with it so far.
Yeah, most certainly has. Lightning Lasso, huge hits here from Z-Pi, but Maro isn't able to really back him up. He's actually in bear form. Chanimal counter-aggressing and protecting his friend with not only peels, but just raw pressure as well. 14% dampening, and it's just going to go up and up and up. And the mana of the healers, it's going to go down, down, down. So this game inevitably will conclude, but I could easily see this being a cross-kill matchup. I'm just trying to predict some moments here. I'm predicting a 1 versus 1 at the end of this.
A 1 versus 1. You heard it here
Cubsy and Looney.
Looney, oh, well,
this is a very specific situation, and if I'm wrong, I don't care, because if I'm right, it's amazing.
If you're right,
okay?
You are definitely right. If it goes down to a 1v1 with the 2 healers, I will eat my shoe. I think it's highly unlikely.
Oh, that's
but,
you might eat your words, too.
I definitely will eat my words if that happens, but I mean, we'll see. It's definitely going to come down to close. You can see Cloud9 are a little bit more reserved in this game. I'm actually not sure that I necessarily like that, because the Infernals, they pushed so hard in the previous 2 games. Maybe they feel like against the Mistweaver, they will have that win condition of, you know, Resto Druids do more healing than Mistweavers, hence at the end of the game, Cubsy will surely out-heal the damage better than Looney. I'm not 100% convinced that's true, though. You know, like, Way of the Cranes do a lot of damage. You see damage over onto Cubsy. If Cubsy had died, Sid, obviously, I wouldn't have had to eat my shoe.
Hey,
so I can see why you got so excited.
I'm not making any bets. You're the one that's putting a lot on the line there. I'm chilling. I'm just sitting here.
Well, what Minpoike shoes taste like.
Probably very shiny, Rich. Just
what,
like
what is shiny? Isn't a flavor.
Shiny could be a flavor. I want shiny to be a flavor. But we see the lasso coming in onto Chanimal's, big damage. Once again, full mana on Cubsy. He's been doing such a good job of, you know, using the biggest map that we will ever see to run away for those drinks. We see Chanimal now. I honestly would love to see him push in more. I feel like there's not really too much threat at this point in the game. Those Infernals can be really deadly. Just go for it, you know. You are burning down Looney's mana. He's never going to drink in this game. I'm curious if they're actually going to win this one the later it goes.
I feel like I'm watching a snowball fight between these members, just casting over and over on each other. The healing is starting to become very difficult for both sides as Maro is trying to recover and struggling. Will he be able to? Multiple Gliders Maledict, Shadow Melt from Maro, and Dispel from Looney denies that burst and that kill opportunity, but Zeepai is still rotting down. The pressure is so much in favor of Cloud9. Their Mage Warlock Druid is on a whole nother level. It is out of this world. If they can keep up this momentum, they're looking solid. Wave the Crane finally activated. Looney has waited until 29% dampening to activate this first Wave of the Crane. He's not able to find the ice block. Weltyman repositions with the Demonic Gateway and avoids that push, and this is where I was saying strategically, what is Wildcard Gaming's game plan? Are they just going to stay at the pillar and just attack and hope they win, or is Looney going to push forward with Wave of the Crane and they play Protect the Mistweaver, deny the crowd control, and add the extra damage for a big burst kill? They tried to do the big burst kill there. Weltyman denied it with perfect positioning. Now they're going back to the whittle them down strategy. Weltyman's forced to retreat, but they've left Chanimal quite overextended. Cubsy's moving forward. He's going to jump on Maro, bash him up. Chanimal's moving forward, but gets clothesline, not able to find any crowd control, but it may not matter. Weltman is just soloing Maro at this point. Live Cocoon, it almost looks like Power Word Shield at this point with 33% dampening, reducing its effectiveness. Chanimal in trouble as Cubsy is interrupted. Weltyman equally so. Maro has to retreat away, and we're getting closer and closer to potentially Adrian eating his shoe.
I mean, you're really making me choke on my words now. Thank you for that one, Sid. Looney was able to restore his mana a little bit there, and one of the things that's making this game go so long is I feel like both teams don't want to commit their offensive cooldowns because they're waiting for the other team to do so. Like, Maro could press his Incarnation at any point, but he knows if he does that, Cloud9 will just back off, and then that will be one less threat that Wildcard Gaming have if the Infernals are to come down. And it's the same for Chanimal, you know, like if he uses Infernal, maybe Wildcard Gaming just uses the Incarnation, and then for Cloud9 to push in would be kind of detrimental since they would tank so much damage in the process. Both these teams just kind of playing this game of chicken, I guess, to some extent. Like,
you're saying that because he's a Moonkin?
I mean, I wasn't, but that is an excellent anecdote had it been the intention. And we see the other win condition that Wildcard Gaming does kind of have is Zeepai being an elemental shaman against a mage. Like, a couple of times we've seen Wealthy just chunk low. As dampening starts to stack up and Wealthy stops being 100%, starts being, you know, 60-70%, that becomes all the more prominent.
It has been a slow battle here between Cloud9 and Wildcard Gaming, but I will tell you, in the final seconds, this is going to be the most chaotic game you have ever seen.
Oh, yes.
You do not want to go anywhere here between these Titaness rosters. Chanimal, well-timed interrupt on Zeepai, denies that Lightning Lasso. They need to make sure they do not let any of those sneak through, otherwise likely to be their own lives. Windshire on Cubsy, Wealthman gets burst, he blinks away, but a Star Surge is flying through. Wealthman barely maxes the range and avoids more follow-up damage, but Cubsy can't even stabilize, and 43% healing reduction. Cloud9 have battled it out, but despite winning the first blind pick, they're falling behind.
Dude, I'm starting to look at the player cameras and see the sweat on the brows of all of these players. They've worked so hard to get here. This has been a grueling 5-game series. We're about 10 minutes or 8 minutes at least into this one, and now is the moment where it all comes down to. All of that effort will be wasted if you lose this game. The intensity is starting to build. Both these healers looking perfectly reasonable on mana, but it's so hard at this point just for the teams to top each other. You can see Cubsy, he burns through his mana pool so fast as a druid at this stage in the game. He can't top his team off. Wealthy Man, if he gets earth shocked at that health, he dies. He dies immediately. It's so scary for them. They have to track every little proc from each other. They have to play the game so precisely at this point, but Maro is the one taking the heat right now.
Disrespect, Cubsy not Gliders Medallion. Infernals are down. How are Wildcard Gaming going to stay alive? Cubsy's in cap form. He's dishing out pain. Wealthy Man's blinking in, but Way of the Crane gets activated. It's Mortal Coiled away. Chanimal doesn't get the Chaos Bolt. Chanimal needs a Chaos Bolt. Is he going to find it? No, they're retreating away. They see the Way of the Crane. They're going to respect it and say, okay, let's wait for that to end. We don't want to be walking in and get a kick to the face. Way of the Crane now gone. 50% dampening. Maybe we're going to see records, but Wealthy Man needs to be careful. Star Surge in the sky. Very low on health, paralysis. Ice block has to be traded out. Wildcard Gaming, they're starting to establish dominance here at 51% dampening.
I think that was it was such a clean play from Wildcard Gaming. You saw the coils coming out. Myro used his trinket. He got the beam on the Infernal push, and the Infernal is the big win condition for Cloud9. Now that that's out the way, I just feel like there's such a lead for Wildcard Gaming. I mean, Cubsy, he might be going for another drink here at this moment in time. Myro dropping low, needs to be careful. Maledict's committed here. This is the big Maledict push from Cloud9. Myro should respect it, uses the renewal. I like that play. Both healers completely doomed. Chanimal struggling. Wealthy Man with one ice block left. This game is not longer, much longer in the history book.
If there's a Nether Ward reflected Star Surge kill on Morrow, then they'll be sick here. Can Chanimal nail it? He's in trouble, but so is Morrow. One more Way of the Crane, but I don't think he's got the mana. Morrow ducks recover. He's just not going back up in health. Cubsy gets stunned by Morrow in desperation. Cyclone just to deny the Feral Affinity, but he's cornered. Wealthy Man on one side, Chanimal on the other. There's nowhere to run. There is no safety at 57% dampening. Looney trying to scrounge back in line of sight. Chanimal still being pressured. It's all up to Zeepai. He has to solo Chanimal while Morrow stabilizes. Will he be able to do it? I'm not sold just yet. No intervey for another minute on Morrow. If he can get to that point for Way of the Crane, maybe they can push them over. Chanimal still getting bursted by the Lightning Lasso. Zeepai trying to carry the team. Thire's Maledict. Chanimal on the run. Morrow is still low. Adrian's shoe is looking tasty. Morrow gets bursted down potentially here. Is he going to fall? Marksy Morrow falls. Chanimal still in trouble. Zeepai Earthshocks him. No defense. Looney's punching him. Is he going to take him out here? I can tell that Adrian's clenching his teeth. Chanimal gates back away. Avoids death.
Wow.
Adrian avoids an awkward situation. Cloud9, they've done it. But they're going to play it out, I think, but it's unlikely that they can take it in that circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how close that one does end up being. Of course, they are going to play it out. These two teams, you know, Zico, it's completely understandable that you said whoever wins this, you expect them to win the tournament. Do you think Cloud9 is going to take the whole thing?
I think it's looking very, very likely. These guys are incredible. Look how happy they are. I mean, they should be. This game, it really just came down. It was the closest series we're probably going to see the entire tournament. I mean, maybe the finals will be closer, but this is as good as it gets. Everybody is just playing perfectly, avoiding as much damage as possible. This game meant everything to these guys because, I mean, these are the titans of each region. So close.
I was going to say there, can you imagine being Chan and be left out of that team hug and they do another team hug? That's what we call synergy, Adrian.
I'm just amazed. The Snuts is by far and away the most hype person on that team. He didn't play a single game. It was Chanimal, Wealthy Man, Cubsy. They played fantastically, but I mean, this is what it means to have Snuts on your roster, you know? Like, how can you ever be sad or demotivated when you have this guy? I watch his stream all the time because it's just so great to watch him. He has so much energy constantly, so much veteran experience, and this is a Cloud9 team to watch, not only for this tournament but for BlizzCon.
Yeah, that's one of the things too where it's really enjoyable, you know, and Vemruki will be on soon and we can kind of ask him, what's it like to be teammates with this guy? He's told us so many stories in the past, and I'm sure we'll get to hear from him soon, but first let's actually look at a few of the last moments of the game, Zico.
So the biggest threat on Wildcard Gaming is Zeepai. Pay attention to what Zeepai is going through right now. He's getting polymorphed up time and time and time again, and Chanimal is the main target. Look at Chanimal. He is using those Frostmate slows to his advantage, trying to line of sight Zeepai as much as possible, giving his teammates as much time as he can. He's just ducking from Zeepai. He knows Zeepai will try to kill him if he ever gets even close to him. And of course, Cubsy, he's just going all in with the Cat Affinity, together with Wealthy Man, just chasing down Morrow ruthlessly, and that's what it comes down to. Both healers pretty much tapped on mana there as well, and if Zeepai just manages to catch Chanimal there, at any point, he will go down. He has no cooldowns, his healer has no mana. Chanimal just needs to buy time for his team, and he does so fantastically, and it gives them the win.
Sid, coming off of this loss, do you think Wildcard Gaming can march all the way back to the grand final from losers?
I think they can. I don't think they're a team that's going to tilt. They had that entire series strategized out. It's just that Cloud9, it was their day. Now Wildcard Gaming, they come back tomorrow. Maybe they come with a different blind pick composition, having seen this Balanced Elemental Shaman play out now on the Grand, Ashmanes, and Tolvaron, which are all supposed to be their favored maps. So potentially they have something else to bring to the table tomorrow, but they'll still have to battle it out, and that's a grueling-looking lower bracket. We still have one more team to send down there, though.
We definitely do, but before we do that, we need to check in with Snuts, so let's hear what he's got to say.
Hey guys, I'm here with Snuts of Cloud9. Congratulations on that win. I gotta ask, how do you guys stay so positive during those long matches that go to Game 5?
I think you kind of just have to. I mean, there's no other option. If you just start stressing out and losing your cool, then in those long games, you can make any small little mistake and it'll cost you the game. I mean, obviously I didn't play, but my team played amazing, so.
And you guys just beat Wildcard Gaming, the powerhouse. You guys are #1 points in NA. How does that feel going into tomorrow? Does that give you any confidence?
I still think there are a lot of good teams left in the tournament. I think this is probably the hardest tournament ever. But I think we're one of the top teams too, so I mean, it's just gonna be good games all around.
And for the next matchup, the last one of the day, who do you think will win, boys or Method Black?
I'm gonna go with the boys.
Okay, and what about you? Do you think you'll win boys or Method Black?
I would rather play the boys, but I mean, it's gonna be a hard matchup, so it's hard to tell. They're both really good.
All right, well, thanks for chatting me. That's it. Back to you guys at the desk.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that you hear him say he'd rather play the boys, think about how many times they've gone head-to-head with the boys, right? It's not any knock on what we've seen that team do or their skill. It's just, yeah, I'd rather play against the enemy you know.
Yeah, I mean, play against what you know. Not only that, like, I think the other thing that really highlighted from this interview is, like, that's nuts. This guy has been at BlizzCons for, like, what, 8 years or something? He says this is the hardest tournament he's ever played in, and I mean, that really speaks to the amount of pressure these players are under right now.
Yeah, he's probably winning BlizzCon too. I mean, right now, nothing changed. He's winning BlizzCon. Let's take a look at the bracket. He may be winning this tournament as well. Zico says he thinks Cloud9's going to be able to do it, and that is from somebody that is never hesitant to let us know when NA isn't in fighting form.